Welcome for those here online and those that will be watching in the future. It's May 5th, 2022. Today is a new series we're launching. I'm Teddy Pins, and today we're doing buyer pros. And so how to win deals and make friends and influence people and all the things. So we've got Crystal Morgan and Emily Warner going to share some of their strategies and tips and tricks and ways in which they're having some success. And I'm just so excited, and I'm going to, Crystal, I've read your post, and this is sort of how this all came to be, but take us through for those that didn't see the post, and I can pull that up and I'll show that because I want people to see how you kind of told the story and how you linked people in. But give us a little bit of snapshot about the buyer, and ultimately not the whole process of working with the buyer, but how you won the deal and kind of just some of your methodology and strategies, if you would.
Yes. So this particular buyer was under 400, and we had a time. We actually did lose quite a few. So this one, I think, well, I had the perfect buyer for the seller. So I think in that way they were aligned.
How did you know that? How did you know you had the perfect buyer for the seller?
Mm-hmm.
So let's take it to first time you show the property. You've lost several deals with these folks, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So are they, and I apologize to jump in, but I want to kind of script it from the early stage. Were they pre-approved?
Yes.
Okay. And did you do anything special or unique with the pre-approval process?
Yes, we got her in front of the underwriters. So it was pretty underwritten.
Tell me more.
Well, I wanted to be able to tell the listing agent that we've already been through underwriting, that her financing is solid.
Friends, already you've gotten the price of admission. All right, so you go through underwriting. Is that something you had talked to the lender about or ever done before? Or?
Yes, I do not work with lenders who will not pre-underwrite. I mean, sometimes my buyers choose to. I can't control who they go to, but all of my lenders that I recommend will underwrite before we offer.
Okay, and do you have them do that when you find the house? So do we pre-approve and then we underwrite, or we underwrite at pre-approval?
Underwrite at pre-approval.
Okay, and tell us, can you share a little more about what they have to go through or do for that process, just quickly?
So they've got to get all of their documents in. So you've got your LO who's putting this perfect little package together, and he goes ahead or she takes that package and sends it to the underwriters. And I'm sure Connie could speak a little more to this than I could. That's how I understand it.
Yeah. Connie, jump in. Is that something that you all do by request, or what? Do you have anything to share about this strategy?
Yeah, that's actually a wonderful strategy. In fact, we have our guarantee close program that it's exactly what we do. We have we'll go ahead and just gather all of those documents up front with the buyer, and then we'll send it through underwriting so they get a full underwriting approval on a to be determined property. And in addition to that, our guarantee close will say that if for any reason the buyer does not close on time, we guarantee that our company will pay the seller $5,000. So with the exception of like appraisal or inspection, it's like even if we underwrote the file and the person quit their job the day before, if it's something like that, or lost their job, then we would still pay the seller $5,000 if it didn't close on time. So not only do we underwrite it up front, the only thing is we just ask for cooperation and from the buyers that they get us everything quickly. As soon as we have that pre-approval, have that application, go ahead and get their documents, get it in, because unfortunately, a lot of times when people first found out about our program, they would call us like on a Friday, we're trying to make an offer tomorrow, and we need that. And we really need to have that time to be able to get it into underwriting. And we're only talking like maybe about, 3 or 4 days lead time. But we have to
unfortunately, most of us are working in, 12-minute increments where it's like, okay, we found the house, stand in the garage, press hard, third copy's yours. So Crystal, do you give your clients a list of things to prepare them to get that together when you start?
No.
You
but
will.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, because in your buyer consult, it's a great time to give them the list of things they need to get a loan. And I'm sure Connie would be happy to share one of those for all of us to use and distribute. And it's
the
on
back
her,
of my card.
like, right? What a pro. So we could use this thing called business cards or, share that or take a photo and just share that with them. But it's really handy to have a list of that so they're ready, because sometimes they don't have their fingers on that. So awesome. Okay, so we were pre-qualified and we are underwritten. And okay, so go through, you show the house, right? Do you call the agent before the showing to make sure they haven't taken a contract yet?
Well, we saw it the morning it went live, so I was confident that they didn't have a contract.
Okay. So at this point, you haven't had any communication with the listing agent other than scheduling showing?
No.
Oh, okay, good. Go ahead. Sorry, and I appreciate your grace as I jump in here. Just want to make sure we cover all the things.
No, I appreciate it. So we did the showing. It went well. She loved the house. Then I called the listing agent.
While you're standing there with your client.
I called them once I got in the car.
Okay.
So my client was confident she was going to make an offer. So I did ask what did I ask? I'm sorry.
No, you've been put on the spot. Emily said it. You're jumping right into this, and I'm gonna, as you think about that, I'll be happy to share. I have an Evernote or just a note that I keep in my phone of questions to ask the listing agent, because I don't trust myself that I'm not going to forget certain things. And I have ones for multiple offers, and I have I'll pull those up and share those. But do you recall by chance what you asked them?
Yeah, so this was actually, I made a few calls to the listing agent, and I usually do make a few phone calls. So this first call, maybe we didn't go over a whole lot, to be honest. I did sort of find out what was going on with the seller. In my pre-offer phone call, though, I feel like that was maybe the important one, where we go over the terms, but also it gives me a chance to sell myself. And backing up a little bit, I do a lot of research for my clients before we make the offer. So I like to be able to tell the listing agent, we've been in the crawl space. We know how old the pipes are. We, just sort of run down the list that we understand exactly what the buyer is purchasing. And I found that to be effective. I also tell them that I have a really high close ratio because we do so much research before making the offer. And I feel like that goes a long way as well. But in addition, this one was particularly tricky because we had so many offers and on this particular house, and my buyer couldn't really bridge an appraisal gap. And that's what kept getting us. So before submitting the offer, I actually called all of the under contract listings that could be potential comps for us. And I found out when they were closing and if they were under contract for more than list price. And I communicated this to the listing agents as well. And I feel like my willingness to show that I wanted to work and that I was going to be a good teammate really helped her win the offer. Sorry.
So you called the other, and why did you share that with the listing agent?
Because so basically when you're trying to win multiple offers, you need to identify pleasure and pain points for the seller.
Yep.
So we found out that seller wanted an owner occupant. Yes, that's us. We also identified a pain point because we knew that we could not cover a low appraisal. So we tried to meet that with information that ended up being really useful. We were able to use it at the appraisal as well. And it did appraise.
Did.
Mhm. When we went under contract, there were comps that almost support our purchase price. By the time we had the appraisal, they had closed.
I got it. It didn't click to me at first, and I apologize if everyone else probably got it. But yeah, the reason you would call those other pending listings and find out, how high they went over, and were people willing to share with you?
Sometimes they share numbers and sometimes they don't, and that's fine. And I don't press them to, but if I can tell the listing agent that they're under contract for more and that they're going to close out at this date, and we can time our appraisal to happen after this closes, that can make a compelling case.
This is another gem, I think, friends, is that like to go find that information out. I haven't heard agents doing this, so that you can help, like you say, find that pain point with the seller of a short appraisal and you don't have gap money. This would help validate the likelihood that it could, and that you would be involved in that appraisal validation, meeting the appraiser or whatnot. So brilliant, Crystal. So did you ask them specifically, do you want an owner OC, or does that matter to your seller? How did you ask that with them?
I asked them what was important to the seller.
Okay.
And she said, well, she actually wants an owner occupant. And I said, well, that's us. And I said, also, I have to tell you, and this is where you get to sort of like, I don't know, show your personality. I told her, I have to tell you, we went into the kitchen. It is huge. It has so much counter space. And we actually measured the kitchen by cinnamon roll batches. So you go tell your seller that you can make 3 cinnamon roll batches at the same time.
This may sound silly, friends. This is how you get relationship and you get emotional buy-in without a love letter. This is the business. Otherwise, we're just apps that are going to be replaced by an Uberized real estate transaction. I love it. All right, it's a 3 cinnamon roll special.
I almost made them cinnamon rolls, actually. I just ran out of time.
So
But-
you got to do cinnamon rolls for closing.
right? Yes. I know. Well, I should have. We're already
Oh, it's
closed.
already closed. Sorry.
It was like such a crazy week. It was actually on my list to do, but I ran out of time. So cinnamon rolls got booted off the list.
So do you know anything else to that process of winning, would you say?
Yes. So I called the lender and explained the situation and told him that our real weakness in this situation is the appraisal, and asked him if he could call the listing agent and talk through his process when he gets a low appraisal. And so that's what he did.
That's another gem. So they already addressed, like, this is how we deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And can you share what that is? Inquiring minds want to know, because that's always fun.
What his process is?
Yeah. How do they appeal it, or do they?
Yeah, he said he would help appeal it and do whatever he could to get it to appraise.
Interesting.
And I imagine he probably, I didn't ask him this specifically, but he probably also spoke to their panel as well, is yes.
Okay.
And they ended up using Vector, which is a great company. I was very happy with that.
And who is that?
An appraiser.
Oh, did you say Vector?
Vector, yeah.
Yep. Okay, good. See
Um,
that, and for those that understanding more of the parties involved, such as like the appraiser panel, and if you're not familiar with that, you can talk to Connie or your lender about what is an appraiser panel, why does it matter, who's on that. Can you just don't be afraid to ask questions to learn. They want to earn your business, and their relationship with the panel, even though there's a certain degree of separation of church and state there, to avoid influence of the lender to the appraiser. But it's important because you do have some choice in that. True, Connie?
That's true. Absolutely. Yeah. So we have a selected panel that we've like just a pre-selected appraisers exclusively on our list. And Vector he's actually our top appraiser. He's at the top of our list. We love Will. So we have those pre-selected that we can choose from, although we can't say, send it to Will or
Yeah.
send it to Victor. We know that it's going to go through rotation, and and then I've got a long-standing relationship with them, so it's nice because again, you've got that panel, exactly who your appraisers are.
Wonderful. So Crystal, does this all happening on a beautiful Friday afternoon when your lender's available and everybody's just cool as a cucumber, or is this after hours or weekend?
I think it's all of it, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, as far as like accessing your lender to call the listing agent and things like that.
He was available over the weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which, is sad for us all, that that's part of our stuff, but we knew it when we chose it, and enjoy your Tuesdays or Wednesdays, right?
Right. That is the weekend.
Yeah. All right. So anything else? I think there's more. Yeah.
Yeah. So the house was empty. So we knew that seller would likely like a faster close. Lender said he wasn't quite sure that he could give that, but he would try. So we also communicated that he was going to try to close it out earlier. We didn't close early, but I did have an email saying he would try. And I feel like showing that all parties were willing to work toward a timely close was a good thing. Now, once we were under contract, I did help put the appraisal package together. And actually, I went to go meet the appraiser because the listing agent was out of town. But our appraisal packet also had just information on things that hadn't closed out yet, in addition to things that the appraiser that may not be apparent to the appraiser.
Okay. Awesome. And we've done classes on appraisal packets, and those are online as well, or you could reach out to Crystal. But having a packet together, Brent Cooper has a great package that he prepares and gives to them. And what things do you include in that, Crystal?
So we included how many offers there were, what the range of offers were. And of course, I'm not the listing agent, so I made sure that he had her info, and I told you, here's what I know. But if you would like specifics on these, you can call the listing agent. She's just out of town, so I'm meeting you. We included why that buyer's offer was chosen. We included, sorry, I'm trying to visualize my sheet in my head. I should just pull it out.
It's all good. It's all good.
Why people move to that neighborhood, and trends that we're seeing in the market, which the listing agent filled most of that out for us.
How much over asking was your offer?
25, I think.
So what was it listed at, and what did you offer?
We sold at 370. I think it was listed at 345. Is that right?
No escalation. You just put it in at straight at 370.
I try to find out if there are any, if we're up against any escalation clauses, but I have not been using them unless my buyer really wants to.
Okay. Fair. All right. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I learned some great stuff, and I'll share a couple things, and then Emily, if you're open to share, we'll move there. I'm going to share. Let's see. Let me share my screen. Let's see if I can do the whole kit and caboodle, because it'll make it easier. But all right. I think you can see this main screen. Are you seeing this Camp Crew Zoom? Is that what you're seeing there? You see this email here? I'm going to make it bigger. Can you read that or see this? Head nods. Okay, so this is an email that we send, and we modify this, but I wanted to share this. This is at least our intro email of we're submitting an offer, right? Including signed disclosures. Authentisign was down, and kind of communicated that. We always do an offer recap right here so that the agent can efficiently process the offer and share it with the details with their seller. Who else is doing that? Great, good. And don't you find it helpful when you get that from a buyer's agent? Yeah, you really want to highlight that and talk about who's doing what. Now, this seller preferred this lender, and so we chose to work with the listing agent's preferred lender. And it was ironic that we had already been pre-approved with them, but that was what we did there. So just sharing that. So I would encourage you, if you want to take a screenshot or whatever, you can do that, or we can share that template. I also wanted to share this this as well. Can you read this? I'm going to highlight some of these, but this is my offer questions to the listing agent. And so I just want to highlight a couple of these. These are just my notes to remember for me. But of course, I asked them about close date. I mean, have you had any offers that worked out, that haven't worked out? If yes, when was the offer? Why did it not work out? These are in more traditional market times, those type of questions. What can we do to make this a great experience for all parties? Other than price, what's the most important to your seller? Any items not listed in MLS that are included or not remaining? Why are the sellers choosing to sell? Can you get a list of improvements? Obviously, we don't try to do many of those things in this competitive market right now. Are the sellers in town and available to make a decision within 24 hours or less? Are obviously asking about the offer deadlines and things like that. Let's see here. Close. Have professional measurements been taken? What was the last appraisal conducted? And then I have multiple offers, and I added these ones down here of just some ways to win, right? Pre-qual versus pre-app. Have the lender call a listing agent, give the professional endorsement. Escalation maybe, waive inspection, pass fail, non-refundable earnest money after inspection. Waive appraisal if possible. A personal letter, although we're not really doing those much. Share, why should you work with your team, like your closing ratio? Quickly provide a personal relationship with the listing agent, view it twice, can show them that you're more interested, or tell them that you viewed it twice, or that you're making cinnamon rolls in the bakery. And then the occupancy agreement, of course, we all know that and how that works. What I would strongly encourage is that you escrow some money at the title company, on the buyer's title company, to be released upon seller upon acceptable occupancy transfer. Does anybody have any questions about that? Yes, Emily.
Is there a special step for that non-refund after inspection? I hadn't seen that before. Love that.
Love that. Yeah, well, let's
Thought
I'm
about
sure-
that before.
There you go. See,
Cost of admission.
even the host, cost of admission. Rebecca will have it written up probably by the time this call is over. And as
Well,
our resident.
I will. I'll pop in there. Of course, there is for it to go in the RF 707, and this is in your system clauses and transaction desk as well. There's the one for it to go non-refundable immediately. I do have one that I have modified to make it go non-refundable at a certain point. It's where you can fill in the blank. Disclaimer: I'm not your broker, but I'm happy to share it with you.
Dun, 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 dun. All right. And then the other thing that I will share, let's see here. And of course, shows coverage of appraisal shortage. If you're covering an appraisal gap, I would encourage showing proof of funds that they can do that. A lot of people are talking about appraisal gaps, and it's like, okay, and in addition to your 20% down, do you have the other money for this? And closing costs. I think the transparency of money has been weak in the past, really, really weak. There's been so much trust and good faith that these sellers, these buyers are going to perform. And it seems like most of them can right now, because you don't even, they won't even get in the car unless they should be. But the other thing that I will show you is Crystal's post. And this is how Crystal got to the game today, was she posted this. And I just happened to see this morning. This darling in Murfreesboro is closed. Minutes from the historic Murfreesboro Square. 9 offers, including cash, and my finance buyer got it. Unable to bridge much of an appraisal gap, we trudged through the market, losing multiple offers to offers that were non-contingent upon appraisal and financing, but we kept on. This buyer was relentless and it paid off. She's making the buyer the hero, right? Not herself. This isn't going to be one of those posts where I tell you that my buyer and I worked magic. Nope. This seller, whose home has been so life-giving to her, wanted to go to someone who would love it and appreciate it. And I know every realtor reading this is wondering if buyers submitted a letter. No, they did not. And thank you for putting that in there, Crystal. Though this buyer offer wasn't the most secure offer this seller decided to make an investment in her neighborhood on her way out by ensuring an owner-occupant would own the house and begin building wealth through home ownership, rather than the house becoming one of thousands in a rental portfolio. Sellers, the ball truly is in your court. We knew the risk the sellers would have to take. We got information from my buyer's lender about his process when an appraisal comes in low and communicated it. We did everything in our power to make sure it appraised. It did. We made sure the financing was solid. It was. And everyone closed with smiles on their faces. And a new first generation homeowner was born. Yes. Who wants to hire Crystal to do their social? Yes. Okay. And then she just like crushes the reach with adding giant thanks to all the people that were involved in the transaction. Put tag village, more exposure. Tag your title, more exposure. I mean, you got them all in here, right? I mean, even Abby with right? That's your insurance person. That's my insurance person too, friends. She's a rock star. And, I've got a very complicated insurance portfolio and she manages it great, all through a spreadsheet that we share on Google Docs and has all my policies. So really, really good. Any questions about Crystal's processor for her? Overwhelmed party of 6. Okay. Emily Warner. Yes.
I have a question. And this may be a bit to Connie, but I am not perfectly clear on the difference between when people use the word or the term pre-qualified and pre-approved. And a second to that is, with this getting somebody through underwriting ahead of time, how does that appear in a letter that we could call out to the other side and say, look how secure this person is? So that may be for the after party, but I just wanted to put it out there.
Shoot, Connie.
Okay, so pre-qualified, we're just really taking their information, pulling credit, but we're just taking verbal information, and then we can give them a pre-qualification letter stating that basically as it appears in the application form that they filled out, it looks as though they will qualify for that mortgage. Pre-approval, we're actually gathering their documents, reviewing their pay stubs, reviewing their tax returns. If there's, quite honestly, if anybody's self-employed, I'm not even going to give a pre-qualification letter, because you just have no idea what $200,000 turns into $25,000. It's
often
such a huge difference. So in a self-employed case, I usually don't even give a pre-qualification letter without at least reviewing tax returns, but that's basically the difference. You're reviewing the documents, looking at their assets. We see that they have the money, the cash to close. So that beyond that, sending it to underwriting, then you're actually getting an approval. So I have actually our approval letters. We have a pre-qualification letter that just says this person's been pre-qualified. Then we have a pre-approval that actually has a couple little, bullet points that says that we have reviewed their income and assets, and they are sufficient for their approval. We've reviewed their assets, and it's sufficient for funds to close, and that's added to the pre-approval letter. And then once we have somebody actually approved, we'll state in there as well that the file has been reviewed by an underwriter and has been approved. Or we actually could even get an approval letter from that milestone of, that's in our system. So, and then of course, like I said before, we've got the guarantee close that could even add to that.
Yeah. Rebecca, did you have something else? I saw you come off mute.
No, sorry, I accidentally hit it. Thank you. That's very helpful. So in the order of, we'll call it security, there's the pre-qual letter, moving up to a pre-approval letter, moving up to an approval letter.
Correct. Yep.
Great. Thank you.
Or would you, but pre-qual and underwritten are not the same thing.
Exactly.
So then after pre-qual comes pre-underwritten or underwritten?
Well, I would say pre-qual and then pre-approval, meaning that the loan officer or team has reviewed the documents and that the customer sent in. And then the next step then, so it'd be pre-qualification, pre-approval, and then approval, actually, from what an approval would be from the review of an underwriter.
All right, cool. I'd love to see that post on the Village exclusive. Do you have access to that?
Do I?
Yeah.
I think we do. Yeah.
Village exclusive Facebook page. I would love you to post the stages of qualification
Okay.
and what they mean. And I think it's important too, friends, that if your lender is making those stipulations or putting that in the letter, we all know that we read all the time. So maybe pull that out and make that clear to the listing agent, right? As part of your offer letter, or excuse me, your offer email and your communications with them. So awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We've got a question from Corey. We'll come back to that. Emily, same question, different party. You want to take us through a deal you have?
Okay, I had one get under contract this week, but my buyer had a lot of leverage, which most of my buyers don't. So I'll preface by that. It was easier for them to get through some of this stuff. But the first thing is I went to the yard sale at the house that was for sale. So number one, it was in my neighborhood and I happen to know the seller personally. And at the yard sale, it was perfect because I said, who's listing your house? Because I knew I wasn't. I'd pitched it months ago. And they said Natalie Sawyer, which made absolute sense because there's personal connections over there too. And I was like, okay, this will be good. This will be good because I know Natalie. And she was one of the few people I knew at Village before I even got into real estate because I knew her husband. So anyway, personal relationship, number one. I can't talk to the seller about any of it. I just said, who's your agent? And that was it. And I just said, good luck. It's going to be a great house. I didn't say I have a buyer, like nothing, because you can't. So first off, I think maybe the seller also appreciated that because a lot of times the clients don't know that our ethics and where our lines are. And especially when there's like a personal relationship, they get nervous. And so I just had to say, you're in awesome hands. They're going to kill it for you. Because I knew that. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking of my drummer client who's coming here from Colorado. So anyway, the big thing was before it was listed, I asked Natalie when it was going live because I knew it was coming. And just got as much info as I could. When my client was here, I drove him by the house before it was listed and around the neighborhood. It's in Inglewood. It's an old stone house in Inglewood. If you saw their Riverwood listing, it was 1312 Riverwood. Old house. So, walking in, I'm like, you're buying an old house. There's going to be something wrong. Something will break as soon as you buy it. So, just expect the unexpected. Client's cool with that. So when it came to making an offer, I just constantly was checking in with Natalie and we were the last offer in. I was actually flying back during the offer deadline and we did, I had also gone to Natalie and said, here's what we're thinking of offering. And I did not mention price. I was just going through terms. And, she came back to me and was like, do you think they could do this? Do you think they could do this? And for the whole weekend, they only had this one other offer. And at the last minute, they got 8 as expected. And I told my client, like, we may think it's at this point, but it may go here and we don't know. So being the last one in, I knew how high we needed to go. And I knew my client had room to do it. So blah, blah, blah. So we were able to waive appraisal. They were cash. How they did that is there's a family trust that is loaning them the cash. So it's a cash offer. And then when they sell their current house, they pay the trust back. So no appraisal, cash offer, they can close immediately. Like we were going to close tomorrow. We went under contract Monday night at 10 o'clock.
You get title work done that quick?
Rudy was on it. Well, okay, so we also were gonna close with their seller's title. So that's something I always like to do because the listing agent likes that because obviously they trust that title company that they're working with. And they probably have a history with them. And it's easier and a little cheaper if both sides do it there. So that's one thing, I call them olive branches, is like go through the contract and see what extra olive branch you can add. So we had to do non-refundable earnest money. We had an inspection on Sunday and offered Monday. So we had a full-on pre-listing inspection. So one thing I'm starting to do is when I'm feeling good about a house is going ahead and calling my inspectors to get their schedule and maybe put a hold on there and also talk to the listing agent and get kind of the schedule. I've made offers contingent on a 3-day inspection and had the inspection scheduled and showing time before the offer was submitted and included that in one of my offer summaries. So if you are doing one, I say it's already scheduled. This is when it is. So that was one thing. So we waived inspection. We didn't do radon because there's already a radon mitigation system in there because we know they're just going to tell you to add one or fixtures. So we skipped radon. We did 10,000 earnest money. It was a $750 offer.
This is 1312 Riverwood.
Mm-hmm.
It still shows active.
It's under contract.
Active as a jailbird. Natalie Sawyer. Andy Monday. Get 'em with it. All right. So
Lot
Sean's
going
been
on. They got a
a lot
lot
going on. No, it's no
So
critique.
anyway-
I just, yeah.
Oh, the seller is did not live here, so it's a 1031 exchange. So even after we gave the seller everything they wanted, including closing tomorrow, they needed to bump it to next Friday. So it kind of like gave us a little like, not that my clients needed the time one way or the other, but that was good. And really just constantly talking to Natalie, trying to find out anything I could. I also looked on showing time because you can see the showings on a listing and when they're booked. And I also knew that they didn't have a crazy amount of showings. So I wasn't expecting it to get as crazy, but it sounds like the people that saw it were all very serious and probably most of the showings are who those offers were.
Love it.
I don't know.
Wendy and her team do a lot of great things to put together a really good listing. You saw those offer instructions, having a floor plan. They do some video work, but have all your stuff in here. I always put these documents in one thing because I hate that I have to click on each one and download it. So I just put all the seller disclosures in one attachment: lead-based paint, PCD, COA, and then anything else that could be, fund or buy related, I put separate. But I always scan that in and put that in as one document. I don't know why they need to be separated. Do y'all agree?
So the reason might be because of dot loop. It's just annoying to slice the documents.
You mean into separate pieces or to put them together?
Yeah, because then for us, then it goes into VMint. I mean, I guess it's like 2 clicks. I'm just
No, interesting. Yeah, no, that's a good point though.
But I'm doing it as one on this one.
We'll give her some props. Emily's got a listing just hit today on Riverbend. So
different road, which is real confusing for me right now. I have Riverbend and Riverwood.
Yeah. Little trick here also, I see that you have assorted your first photos because some sites only show 4 or 5 photos, or people can only click a couple before they give an email. So don't put 7 photos of the front that your photographer took as your first 7 photos. Scramble your best up first so that the buyers can see a sampling and be intrigued, and you don't have to take them through the tour the way that you walk through it or the photographer gives them to you. Look at her kitchens towards the back, and we know why. So still going to sell, hot one, but anyhow.
I got a cash offer just while we were on this.
Of course.
No offer summary. They did not fill in my contact info on the purchase and sale at all. Like now that I'm seeing, I don't do a ton of listings. I've only had a couple. So it's it's just funny. And I get it from their, do you send the offers from you or from admin?
Very good question.
This came from the admin and I haven't even heard from this person. I don't think there's any showing, you know, unseen.
It varies. I would say most of the time, or many of the times, it can come from admin, which is not preferred, right? It'd be best that it come from myself or my email, but we've had extensive communication prior to that email going, so they know that that is coming for sure, for sure.
Might be an investor.
Yep,
Crystal, your text. Yes, that's who it was.
there you go. And so amazing, Crystal, like knew who that was. But I mean, you get to be known as that, right? And like certain people are going to work with people that they like and know and trust and are going to get deals done. And so there's, as Crystal said, there wasn't magic to Murfreesboro, but there was a lot of intentional things to do. And I hope that today was really helpful. We have a question from Corey. He says, how are people avoiding issues with lender for over 60-day occupancy? Well, I don't give them the occupancy agreement. Well, that's in the contract, but anybody have any comments to that? Or Connie, can you speak to that?
I mean, that is a problem for a lender. If they have to occupy within 60 days. So I mean, if it's a cash sale, then we don't care because you don't have a lender involved. Or if they're buying it as an investment property, obviously. But otherwise, yeah, you've got to have that 60-day occupancy. So that's kind of a hard, fast thing. I'm not sure how you get around that.
And how are you approaching with your buyer if they aren't using escalation? Just advising that they offer the price they are willing to walk away at. Anybody
Yeah,
have any language they use, Emily?
well, there's an escalation clause exhibit form that
There
we're
it is.
supposed to use. So I put that in the exhibits and addenda, just see attached or whatever.
Do you encourage your buyers to use an escalation clause, or does it depend on if the seller's open to them, or do you encourage your buyer to just put the number? I always say, look, put the number you can sleep with losing. Put $1 under that, because, and I mean it specifically. So it can get confusing. So I say, and I give them the scenario. House is priced at 700. They say, we'll go 740. We'll go 750. All right. So a couple things. I'm going to encourage you to consider shifting your offer by a few $1,000s because 750 is a round number that other people likely will choose. We've got to outthink the competition. So even if it's 752, 500, I'm going to encourage that, or 752, 700. All right, we maybe can do that. The other thing is, but we'd like to do an escalation clause because, you know, it's only priced at 700. As a listing agent, if you submit me an escalation clause, you bring me that offer on 700 at 725, which you shouldn't do. You should bring the base offer at 727, 600, or something a little above the round number is your base offer number. And then your escalation cap should be also not a round figure. Put it escalate above. But so you bring me a 726 offer, it escalates up to 752, 600. And your offer may or may not be the winner, okay? But my seller wants to work with you, or you are the highest offer, and the next closest offer is 725 too. Do you think I'm going to use your escalation clause and sell you that home for 727? Is that in the best? Is that, what's that?
No.
No.
So.
So what I would do, because I would advise my sellers to do, is to verbal counter. I call you and I say, we have multiple offers. My seller will take your offer if you come in at 750. You've got 10 minutes and they want to talk to the other folks, but you've got 10 minutes. Will you call them and see if they're comfortable with that? Well, what about the escalation? They're not going to do that. Escalation clauses constantly get messy and misinterpreted. And so they're just willing to sell you their house at this number. You made a great offer. Notice that I didn't say 752. I came down a little bit under their max. and we have a clean deal, and they take it every time. Now, what value did I bring to the market, to the competition, to the neighbors, to the seller? I didn't gouge the buyer. The buyers showed they were willing to pay that, more than that. This is why I don't suggest escalation clauses. But sometimes sellers just, listing agents don't know any better. But this would be part of your consultation with a listing of why you, why you, because this is the type of stuff that you take your time to learn and experience about to advise them that way. So I use the language, pick a number you're willing to walk away with. And so when they say, like in that instance, we would go 752. Okay. If you found out that it sold for 755, how would you feel? Well, we pay 755.
That was where we were. You're
Yeah.
exactly where we were on this offer.
Yeah. And so they say, well, we pay 755. Okay, well, so you don't shame them for that, but you're like, all right, so like, that's what we're trying to get to is, well, I mean, that's not that much more. Okay, I don't disagree, but I want to find, you need to find your pain point. So 775, yeah, we wouldn't do that. 760. All right, okay, 760. All right, so let's go back to our game here. Would you be doing, I'm not trying to talk you up, but if you do 760, do you think it'd be good to put 761? Now, at this point, I have to do some qualification that I'm not trying to play, let's make a deal with you. I have no interest in trying to get you to overpay. And I tell them when I start working with them, I am so sensitive to buyer budgets. I strongly discourage overspending. So this is a number that you need to be comfortable with and pre-qual and all the things. But what I see happen is that buyers don't check their guts enough. They think they have a ceiling, but then when they figure out that they lose it, they're pissed. And they go, I could have done that. Because for every $1,000 more on your offer is $5 a month. So for $10,000, $50, you lost the house that you wanted. How many more rate hikes is it going to take for you to realize that a month is costing you big time? So I want them to understand that I have a lot of empathy for what is going on in this market, but I have a lot of knowledge about what's happening with buyers and what's keeping them from their goals. And most of it has to do with, I don't think we're advising them well. And I think it goes for sellers too. And it's not us, but you know what I'm saying? Our industry could do a lot better in this space. Holy smokes, buyer pros coming at you today.
Another
Corey, did that?
thing- oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a buyer right now that's, it's a tough one. We've made a few offers and lost. And this one, I could use some advice on this if you guys have any.
I love this closing.
There is a significant, the budget's around $300 to $350. So let's just start with that. Livable, like move-in ready. The client's down payment is coming from family member. The family member's stipulations are that money can only go towards the down payment, not towards any repairs, not towards an appraisal gap. Everything.
Okay.
Check. I'm not in communication with the family member because they are not my client. And I've stuck my communication through my client, and we've been, working for a few months. So I'm just kind of like, if you guys have any thoughts on how I could strengthen that. She's always going to do an inspection. So we've been doing 3 days, already paid for one inspection and backed out, and, we're on a budget. So inspections cost. One piece of relief I've given her is that when we close, that first month's mortgage payment is in your closing costs. So I remind them there will be a little time there, and if we can, stagger that where it would work best for the client, like she's still renting, so that whole overlap. But yeah, if y'all have any advice on how I could strengthen an offer in that situation, I would love it.
Yeah. Any thoughts for the panel, for the meeting, everyone here? Don't all jump at once. It's a really easy solution. That is challenging. I've not heard one like that where the family was so strict about how that's used. That's interesting. Crystal?
Is she stuck on Davidson, or is she willing to go out a little bit?
Davidson.
Do you
But
think?
it has been like Goodlettsville, Sumner side would be fine, that kind of thing. I think she's gonna be on the east part of the county, north and east, possibly southeast, because she does live in Antioch now. So we've been looking anywhere from like Antioch, Hermitage, Madison, kind of Bordeaux, Buena Vista, Old Hickory. There's some at Old Hickory she wants to see tomorrow. So there've been stuff. There've been a few. It's been tough though.
Do you, okay, my feeling is, and maybe this is bad, but if the family has the money, is there something that you could say to her that would help her negotiate with her family?
That's the thing, is how do you say that makes it feel like it's their idea and it's such a better.
I think, well, I just ran into this a little bit. So I told my buyer, in Davidson County, most buyers are paying over the appraisal. I just want you to understand that. It doesn't mean that we won't find you a house here, but it's going to take a while. Now, if we find a house that's been on the market for a week, I think we can negotiate that. If we go out and look in Ashland City, I think we have a better chance of working this out without an appraisal gap. And that may prompt her to go negotiate with her family.
And I'd offer a conference call if you felt comfortable to just kind of share with them. I often do that, even though they're not my client. And I would encourage maybe to do Zooms. Just so I think facial is helpful, and it's not to try to change their mind. It's just to kind of include them in some of the nuances of the process that, and that's kind of maybe the language that I would use of, you're not trying to undermine that your client doesn't understand or can't explain it to them, but that you just want to make sure that they're aware of kind of how that works into the process, and that that's not like wasted money or fun money. That money is really kind of what's necessary to buy the home, and that appraisals are just opinions. And they're bound by certain standards, but you could get an appraiser that's having an off day or miss some information, but here's what I'm going to do to help satisfy the appraisal, and use some of Crystal's tips there. I think that could help a lot. I love that idea, Crystal, about calling the pendings and finding out where they landed. Even if you just ask the question, and I'm going to lead this to another question that I ask when I'm trying to get the seller, the listing agent, to tell me, what do I got to do to win? Is ask them, like, if you call it listing agent, you're under contract. Well, we really don't want to share what we're selling at. Are you over list? Yeah, we're over list. 10%, 20%, about that. Give them some outs, give them some other ways to say yes, right? So I will often, when I call listing agents, I'm going to call them, they give me a weekend that they're going to accept offers Monday. I call them first and say, is there any chance in the world, practically, that you could accept an offer early? Nope. My seller has, all right, you still then don't trust it, but you got a lot better assurance you've got to have the whole offer window, okay? I just had to put an offer, or I did put an offer on a tiny house, sight unseen, no contingencies, cash to close in 10 days. And they were not going to allow any offers to come in until the 15th. And I got it. And they had a sight unseen offer they got that day, the next day. So I had to go strong, and I got it. And I don't even know what I got because I've never seen it. The other thing I'll say to listing agents is I don't even ever ask them, depending on my relationship with them, but what is it going to take to win? Or how's your interest been? Do you have any offers? Do you have any cash or I asked the agent texted me and she goes, are you still going to bring us an offer for the tiny house? She says, we got a sight unseen. I said, is it cash and non-contingent? She says, I wouldn't be calling if it was, or I wouldn't have texted you if it was. That just told me. Thank God that it was not cash or contingent, because I would have lost my opportunity when I intended to get the offer in earlier that day. Because I reached out to her and I just said, what's your title company? Right? I said, teaser line, like I'm writing an offer. Sometimes you don't want to tell people you're bringing an offer, because it's just going to make that listing agent call everybody else and tell them, I've got one coming and now's the time. So we have a duty as listing agents too to do that. So you're wanting to think through that, educate your buyer and the family and anybody involved about that part of the strategy. And I'll ask questions like, does it need to have it's listed at 475? Does it need to have a 5 in front of it? I'll use that language a lot. It does. All right, well, I just don't want to waste your time or mine. I'm not asking you to tell me what the number is, but like, do you think 510 will get it done? Sometimes they'll tell you. They will straight up tell you. And, we had a deal recently for a client that they had another offer. It was contingent on a closing. And my clients, we made them rent. They sold their house in Chicago, and we made them like close, because we didn't make them, but I asked listing agents, is there any chance you'll take a contingent? And they're like, are you out of your mind? They're like, call Connie and get back to us. Like, there's tools for this. So they were under contract. We just let them close. And that client told me, they said, we have this contingent offer. It was listed at 575 or 550 and, or something in that range. And then like I said, it was 650. And I said, if we bring you to 675, they had a full price offer that fell out the day of closing because the buyer who's buying that house lost their job or lost their house. So they fell out on closing date. They had a 725 full price offer that fell out on closing date. They went back to market at 675. They did the weekend showing deal. My client said they weren't interested. They only had one offer on the Monday. And because I called the listing agent again, my client said, we're not interested. I said, they only have one offer. I said, okay, we'll see it. It's in East Nashville. And they went and they loved it. Rebecca showed them and they loved it and they wanted to write an offer. And so I called her and I said, the listing agent, I said, if we bring you full price, I mean, non-contingent, will that do it? She goes, the offer we have is 705. I said, all right. She goes, because we had 725. I said, if I bring you 705 non-contingent, you think we'll get it? That'll do it. Deal's done. Yes, Emily.
So one thing I almost did on the Riverwood one is I learned about this form, the Real Estate Offer Confidentiality Agreement. What? So then when all the agents are calling that agent, asking questions, that agent is required to not give that info. And the form signed by the buyer and the seller only.
I ain't signing that. I'm kidding.
But what do you think about that? I almost did that because when there are so many and I knew we were close. Oh, and your questions you ask them, I always say, is it north of X? And then I might say, is it north of X? And then I might say, is it north of X? And then their voice will start to change when you get more warm in the Marco Polo.
Yeah. And don't be too pushy. I've had another agent call me and said, Ted, I don't think this is the village way, and I think you should know about it. This agent, I told him that I wasn't going to share anything about offers, and he just kept after it. And it's just unprofessional, and it's just too much. So, and I don't know of anybody on here that's overly aggressive that way, but you can be too much. There's a nuance, and both of you know how to read the EQ of people to understand how the chat is going. But there's a lot of success. There's a lot of information to be gleaned from just using your iTalk app. Call people, and then they don't answer, and you leave this thing called a voice. or you send them a voice text, right? So just find other ways, ask them how they want to be communicated to, tell them you don't want to bug them and all the things. But I am so grateful for y'all. I want to be respectful of time. We're over as usual with the Teddy Show. Anything other questions before we wrap up? Raise your hand if you got something out of this today. Awesome. Crystal, go ahead. You have one.
Can I ask, do we have time for one question?
Oh, yeah, always, yes.
Do you have a process when it's really hard to get a hold of the listing agent?
Oh, does anyone want to share their success in that?
Tell us how much communication you have attempted.
Multiple phone calls and texts over the course of a few days. This was a few weeks ago. It's over now. But I couldn't figure out a way to get through. And we submitted an offer. We didn't get it. I didn't have any information. We just did our best.
Did they respond to your offer? Did they even like tell you didn't get it?
No, they didn't. And I had to fight to get that rejection.
Good for you for getting the rejection. It is required. At that point, when it's over, broker call. And use that chance to get to know a broker. And you don't have to call your broker to call that broker. You just call their broker and just say, I just don't know, just like they did to me. I don't know if this is the way you want your ship running. I'm not here trying to complain, but like, this was a total disservice to my buyer and the ability to, and I think to the seller, to help get them something they want.
Yeah.
So I would love if you could check in with that person, find out. I made a lot of attempts and it was just a blind deal the whole way. It's terrible.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Obviously, if you reach out to the broker, if you're not getting communication, that would be my next step after multiple and you try the sweet sauce and sorry, we keep missing each other. I really want to get some information so I can bring an offer your seller loves. But
that's a good line.
Yeah,
I use that.
I figured you did. You're like, you got the sweet sugar, but yeah, just like, I really want to bring you something that works and that you'll love, but I'm shooting in the dark here. So that's why I love that question. What can we do with our offer to make this or what can we do to make this a great experience for everyone? Is there anything in particular?
I said, we're in it to win it and we'll beat any offer you have.
Confident, bold.
So just tell me what I need to do.
With the right buyer,
I'm really close. Tell me what I need to tighten up.
Right.
And that's why we did the pre-inspection. That was exactly why the listing agent said, I love a pre-offer inspection. I said, well, then we're gonna do that.
And that is, and I'm going to tell you, this is, I believe, where the business needs to move. In Northern Colorado, no listing goes on the market with this brokerage that doesn't have an inspection, and they give it to the public. And they tell them what we did and didn't do. But then every offer is non-contingent because we already showed you the inspection. You want to take it up a notch? Tell your sellers you're going to make more than you ever dreamed. Pay $500, get an inspection, and you've just eliminated an enormous possibility for this not to close. That is the biggest contingency risk to a seller is inspection. Eliminate it. Get a listing inspection, and then all those parties that probably could have even brought you a better offer, maybe, it takes it off the table. I need to keep remembering it. Yeah.
I was just going to say, what if what do you think of the idea of upping your base commission or retainer and you just order it as a listing agent?
Dig it. Emily seems confused. So, I charge $488 and $388. Why do I pick those numbers?
Because they're not even numbers and it makes you think you're not paying $900.
Yeah, I don't want to pay $500. What's that for? I mean, what is $488? Well, I like 8s better numerically than, or than 9s. I don't like 95 and all that kind of stuff, but you know, I have an intention to that and what that goes towards and how I use that. But I love that idea, Rebecca. And you got to show it to them in the net sheet. They don't want to put money out of pocket. So yeah, if you're willing to, you've just saved everybody a ton of time. I'm paying for that before I'm paying for staging. I don't pay staging, right? I might do some light stage. Yes, Rebecca.
And I just betcha if you work with your preferred inspector who you give all the business in the world, say, dude, I'm going to give you all of my pre-listing inspections. I want it to cost $400 or whatever, but I will give them all to you. So anyway, now we're moving into listing pros, I guess. But anyway, I like the idea of the pre-listing inspection. I always have.
They're getting business they're not getting because their businesses are down significantly. So they've got some time, friends. And they love it because they're not doing it with a 2-hour notice. We've got a listing coming up in 2 weeks. Could you go, I don't know, anytime between then? That's another reason I want maybe a favorable rate, because you get to do this thing as you're squeezing whenever. This has so much merit. Who's going to be the first to do it? Me. Katie. Katie, do it. I love it. All right, friends, spread the good word. Tell other listing agents, get pre-home inspections for the seller. You know, if buyer still wants one with their own, great, but otherwise get a rate on, get the stuff, like just like eliminate this problem. You're not going to sell your car without vacuuming it. All right. Y'all are the best. This was fun today. Rebecca Cooper, thank you for being so passionate about that we follow a deal rather than just we get on here and chat about good ideas. And Crystal, thank you for your post today. That solidified Rebecca's concept that that's the way to do this. And I'm so grateful for Emily and Crystal and Connie and everybody that participated. And Thomas, our welcome guest from Pilkerton, who I met at Jumpstart, lovely, at Ninja. And he handed me his business card with 2 hands. And I got to tell you, it's a square card, and he handed it, and I went, did you hand me that card with 2 hands for a reason? Yeah. I said, why did you do that? He goes, I think it makes a little better impression. I said, did somebody share that with you, or where did you pick that up? Bobby Noreen.
I started my career at Village, and Bobby was the person who did the new agent training. That's one of the few things that I incorporated into my interactions. But
how long ago did you learn that? You're using it to a fellow agent at Ninja.
It was in 2017. But part of the reason why I did that was I had to have a card that I was proud of. So I took a lot of time to design the card as well. And it's small things, but they make a big difference.
Yeah. That was one of my most proud son moments. I was like, Bobby Noreen showing up right here. Crystal.
I mean, can we see it? Can you?
Oh yeah, let's show it.
Can you do the thing?
I think I have one on me. Hold on.
That's also a rare thing. A realtor has a card.
Here.
Love it. This is fantastic. It's a great closing. It is a good card, friends. But you know what?
So it's a
whatever
square.
it was, the delivery was just, and there's I go to a reflexology place called Buka, and when they hand your credit card back, they're getting a little loose with it, but they'll hand it back sometimes with 2 hands, because that's where Bobby got it. And it's a common way of handing your card that people are really reverent about that. All right, show it off.
All right, so it's a square. I had our graphic designer design it. So I did the logo, the signature, and we superimposed it next to the logo where they did the modern sans serif font on there. It's a square, and it's quite thick. It actually has a seam. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, it's a black core. It's like,
and then we just put our logo. Again, my signature, who I am, my personal brand combined with the brokerage. And then you can see all my socials are on there. Yeah, every way you need to get a hold of me. Instagram, so, and yeah, it's got a weight to it. You know, it's something that it's more natural to hand it like this as opposed to, no offense, but when we were at Village, the having the headshot and the purple card, it was a good card, but it wasn't a part of my personal brand. So created something, again, I created something I was proud of. I like the whole like Jay-Z, like I'm not a businessman, I am my businessman. That whole like it's a part of your self-image. So
I've
that's
never heard that.
It's
But I can tell you that made such an impression on me. The way he handed me that card is what solidified. I will never forget Thomas. Thomas and I are going to work together in some way, shape, or form. Like, I was like, this is legit. The people that I have that I see your faces a lot, or I see what you're doing, because you're making a difference. You're making an impact. You're doing things differently. So I just want to encourage all of you and just honor you for doing what you're doing and being a great person in our business and industry. And thank you so much for your generosity with your time and sharing today. Cool stuff.
thank you guys.
You bet. Sounds great. Have a great week. Good luck with your buyers. You got a lot of new tricks. Take care. Bye-bye.